demonstrated by Loretta the chicken. Extraordinary style from Delano now. He's doing business. Indeed. Starting out with the decision to extend talks to renegotiate NAFTA, Delano.
That's right, Stuart. Good morning. The United States, Mexico and Canada have all agreed to push the year-end deadline to rework the North American Free Trade Agreement. The U.S. Trade Representative says he was surprised at the resistance to change. Donald Trump's trade czar adding everyone needs to give up a little bit of candy in order to get a good deal. Now, Canada and Mexico, meanwhile, say some of the U.S. proposals on the table are unconventional. Take a listen.
We have seen proposals that would turn back the clock on 23 years of predictability, openness, and collaboration under NAFTA. In some cases, these proposals run counter to WTO rules. This is troubling.
But in order for these efforts of Mexico, the United States, and Canada to be fruitful, we must understand that we all have limits. Despite our current differences, we must ensure that decisions we make today do not come back to haunt us tomorrow.
Latest from NAFTA. Markets, how are they doing?
Well, over in Asia, it's a mixed picture at this hour. The Hang Seng in Hong Kong trading in negative territory. The Nikkei in Japan ending the session up around over 0.1% at this hour. Investors also keeping an eye out on what comes out from the Party Congress underway in China this Wednesday.
Now, next, 3 former Tesla workers are taking the company to court. Why?
Well, according to the suit, the 3 African-American men claimed they suffered constant and daily racial discrimination. They alleged they were subjected to racial slurs and racial drawings by co-workers and even superiors. Tesla says the timing of the new claims is noticeable. The company is still in the midst of a lawsuit brought by a former employee who alleged that women experience unwanted and pervasive harassment. Tesla has also been in the news since late last week, this after the company fired hundreds of staff in the United States. Many of the laid-off employees say the firings have nothing to do with issues of performance. Next, a billionaire investor George Soros has transferred nearly $18 billion to his Open Society Foundation. The philanthropic organization founded by Soros himself has now become the second largest in the United States after the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The organization promotes democracy and human rights in over 120 countries around the world. The $18 billion gift was quietly made over the years, but was only disclosed on Tuesday. It's one of the largest transfers of wealth made by a private donor to one single foundation. Now, there is a new type of investor that's been creeping up over the years, activist investors who use their influence to change the shape and direction of the businesses they've invested in. One such investor is American billionaire Nelson Pletz, who's expanding his influence across some of the world's top multinationals. Rebecca Rosman has this report.
He's a billionaire hedge fund owner with a very targeted strategy for marking his influence on the business world. Nelson Peltz, who heads the multi-billion-dollar Trian Partners, has managed to reshape the strategy of multinational companies like Heinz, PepsiCo, and General Electric, in which Trian has a $1.38 billion stake. How does he do it? It's all part of a strategy called shareholder activism, a technique Peltz has mastered. Activist shareholders typically hold a small equity stake in a publicly traded company. They then use that stake to put pressure on management to rethink the company's strategy according to the shareholders' interests, with the ultimate goal of increasing share prices.
Sometimes you have to shake things up in order to restructure. So for a company that's badly managed, they can come in and help to make a real change.
But often that direction involves mass layoffs, closing entire departments deemed too costly or unnecessary. A dangerous approach, according to some experts.
They want to get rid of certain areas, but if a company becomes too specialized in any one sector, they also become very fragile.
Faced with the growing influence of activist shareholders, more and more French companies, including Danone and Casino, have hired their own financial consultants as a counterbalance.
Now, Delano, you covered lots of investors on business today, but one veteran investor, turns out he could be a bit of a racist.
Indeed, Stuart, and we're talking about the Swiss investor Mark Faber, nicknamed Dr. Doom, is facing a strong backlash for his latest newsletter. In it, he thanks God white people populate America and not the blacks. Faber has been made famous by his appearances on business news channels. His newsletter also claimed America would look a lot like Zimbabwe had it been colonized by the blacks. Now, CNBC News and Bloomberg have both decided they will no longer be booking Mark Faber. Despite the backlash, the Asia-based investor is sticking to his guns, saying, quote, and I quote, "If stating historical facts makes me a racist, then I suppose I am."
I think he will have a little bit more spare time in his hand.
I think so.
Thank you, Delano. Delano, we're busy.